Yisro understood that Moshe may be hesitant to come out to greet him. And therefore he says, either come out to greet me on my own behalf, on behalf of your wife, or on behalf of your children. And then the Torah tells us, V'yetzi Moshe likras chosno, that he went out to greet his father-in-law, not his wife, not his children. So I mentioned, the Mention had said that Hashem says, you go and greet Yisro. Why? Since he abandoned idolatry on my behalf for me, therefore he's worthy that he should be acknowledged and valued, therefore you must go out to greet him. That's the Midrash Tanchuma. Then the Midrash continues and says, we find idolatry mentioned 48 times in the Torah, and the laws pertaining to a ger, to a convert, mentioned 48 times in the Torah. Why? Because the convert did something which is so out of the ordinary, so exceptional. He abandoned idolatry, and to indicate that, the laws pertaining to a ger are mentioned as often as idolatry is mentioned, 48 times. So I mentioned yesterday that Chazal tell us what is the antidote to Avodah Zarah? Torah. Barasi Yisro, Barasi Torah Tavli. The Mishnah tells us in the 6th parak in Pirkei Avos how many ways to acquire Torah in its totality. It's Memches Dvarim Shetorah Niknas Behem. The 48 ways you acquire Torah. Other things, it's less, Torah is 48. Meaning, the number 48 is an essential number because, so based on this measure, just as you have Avodah Zarah mentioned 48 times, so meaning you don't have a full degree of protection, which is the antidote, unless it's 48. What is Avodah Zarah 48? That's how Avodah Zarah is represented. And that's why when the ger gives it up, it's such a tremendous level of accomplishment that Hashem values. So to be able to be in a position to be able to counter whatever that represents, you have to have 48 levels of development of Torah to be able to counter whatever that Avodah Zarah is. That's Barasi Yisro, Barasi Torah Tavli. Had said, the Jews, we failed with Avodah Zarah at Sinai. So the question is, I mean, here we hear the Aser Sadibros, and then Moshe Rabbeinu was delayed just a short amount of time. We're involved with idolatry. I mean, how do we understand it? This is known as the Dor Deo. This is the generation who was the ultimate level. They all prophesied in the wake state when they heard the Aser Sadibros. I mean, how did they fall so quickly? So we once said, if a person has a glimpse of Hashem, but you don't actualize that reality, at that moment, the Jews had no mitzvahs. We had no mitzvahs. We heard the 10 commandments. You shouldn't kill, but all the laws, to have it fleshed out, to engage in Torah study, we didn't have. So it was like totally abstract. We understood who Hashem is, but to be able to internalize it, to be affected to the degree that we grasp it, that you have to have the study of Torah. We didn't have Torah yet, and we didn't have mitzvahs yet. As a result of that, that's the reason why we're vulnerable to what? To the Avodah Zarah, because we didn't have the antidote in its full dose, so to say, to be able to counter that. That's why we failed by the Chet Egel. If we would have had Torah and been involved in Torah, it wouldn't have happened. Even though it's difficult, because it says, why did Amalek come? We'll discuss, we traveled from Refidim, Rafidim in our Torah. We were lackadaisical regarding the laws of Torah. I mean, what in what sense? You have to say it's referring to what? The laws that were given to us in Morah. Morah, there were 3 things given to us: Shabbos, Didim, and Paraduma. It's evidently those laws were given to us, and we should have been more involved in that, which we were given in Morah. That's roughly them in our Torah. And therefore, Vayava Amalek. The reason why we had a lack of clarity to be able to speak out of turn is because we weren't sufficiently involved in Torah. Therefore, we spoke out of turn. We said, is God with us? Is he not with us? Seemingly, that's what it's about. The difficulty is, so Hashem says, go greet him. He bowed. He kissed him. Let's look at Rashi. At that time, Yisro was honored with the ultimate level of honor. Moshe, if Moshe went out, who followed? Aaron. And anybody who saw these are the leaders going out to greet Yisro, who would not go out? So all Klal Yisro went out to greet Yisro. Who bowed to who? Who's called Ish? Moshe. Shenemar, Moshe's Ish. Shenemar v'ish Moshe. So Ish, Moshe's Ish. So he bowed to Yisro. Vayishaklo, and he kissed him. There's a beautiful Sifarno over here. He says, why did Yisro have to inform Moshe he was coming? The Gemara tells us in Nida that you're not permitted to enter your fellow's home unless you knock first, to inform him that you're about to enter. And it's not only a fellow's home, but even your own home. Because when you walk in, your wife may be doing something which is on a very personal level, and you may embarrass her. Therefore, you should alert the person before you come in, and that's where you knock on the door. So the Sifarno says over this is the appropriate behavior. Once he comes and he's not ready for him, just as a courtesy, you should tell the person you're coming. Otherwise, you could put the person in the position he's embarrassed. He is not ready to really host you. He quotes the Gemara Psochim. You should not enter even to your own home suddenly. And definitely not into your fellow's home. Vayetze Moshe. What's Vayetze Moshe? So the Sifarno says, Lo chodal bishul ma'loso lekadim b'nei mi sheshilim imotova. Just because of Moshe Rabbeinu's status, he's the ultimate leader in the world. In the history of existence, there's never been a person in this level. Nevertheless, he went out to what? To acknowledge Mishashin Lo Tova Beisaro. This is what being appreciative, to be beholden for what Yisro had provided him when he was not in a good position. He had fled and he had taken him in. So this is Hakor Satov. That he's willing to acknowledge him and compromise his position. Although Yisro is at much lesser level, that's Hakor Satov. Kinim ves Maimer Mordechai Esterosa Osa. Kin Yosef v'Mechov b'Molcho. V'hepich lo zocha b'sar mashkim es Yosef. We find the antithesis of this. Even though Yosef had interpreted the dreams of Sarah Mashkim, he didn't have an iota of appreciation. Therefore, he forgot him.
Rabbi,
It's interesting. We find that when Moshe Rabbeinu, by the burning bush, originally hesitated because he was concerned he may be offending his older brother, and that's why he didn't want to take the shlichus of to be the goel. So Hashem says to Moshe, "V'yotzav v'rocha v'samach b'libo." He will go out. He will go out v'rocha, and he will see this, and he will have joy in his heart. So when Moshe Rabbeinu went out into the desert to see Aaron, it says Aaron kissed Moshe Rabbeinu. I mean, if you have two brothers, they hadn't seen one another for 60 years. You have to tell me when they meet one or they kiss. It's understood they're going to kiss. They didn't have any, they had a special relationship initially. So he says, what's the Torah telling us? Vayishek lo, ka'odam menashik sefer Torah. He kissed Moshe like he was a holy object. Aaron, understanding who Moshe was, that he's chosen by Hashem to be the Goel, he kissed him, because otherwise, what does Torah have to tell us? It's understood he kissed him. To tell us, no, this kissing was just brotherly love, but this was understanding what the innate value Moshe Rabbeinu was. What's the Yishak lo? Right? You have the same question. If his father-in-law, this is his father-in-law. He goes out, he greets him, he kisses him. What's the value of sharing that piece of information with me? So evidently, if Hashem says go out, that means initially, regardless of what your hesitancy was initially, he is at a level that Moshe Rabbeinu understands. Hashem values him to that level. So if Hashem values him to that level, therefore it's similar. You're kissing a holy object. It's a holy object, like I said, because since he abandoned Avodah Zarah, according to the Mishnah Chuma, which is mentioned 48 times, and he gave it up to go into the desert to become part of Klal Yisrael, he's deserving of the ultimate level of acknowledgement. So therefore, by Yishak Lo, also Yisro had that special innate value. It wasn't Mashmur Shamu Bo. It wasn't only for that. But that Hashem says go out, that Hashem is quantifying the innate value of Yisro. Why that Hashem does not associate his name with any of even the Ovos until they passed away? Why? Because you never know till the last minute of your life, God forbid, a person could revert back and become a heretic. So only once the person dies, where it's clear he concluded his life in this context, therefore he became Elokei Avram or Elokei Yaakov. But until he passes away, Hashem does not associate his name with them. Because Al Tamid Ba'atzchad Yom Moshe, you can't trust yourself till the last moment. You never know Chas V'Shalom what could be. If Moshe Rabbeinu puts Yisro on this pedestal and his background is idolatry, he's an idolater. That means the ultimate in Torah representation of Torah acknowledges this man at this level. What happens if this man, besides his background, he should somehow have some slippage in this area because that's his background? What would be? We got a problem. So Moshe Rabbeinu is very hesitant. What about Hakaras HaTov? You don't do Hakaras HaTov if there can be any level of what? Serious consequences of this Hakaras HaTov. He has to, he's the leader of Klal Yisrael. He has to take this into account. Hashem says, go. That's why Hashem had to give him that confirmation. You don't have to worry about that. You go. According to Sefarno, it's not simple. Unless this was Hashem's order, dictate to go, it's not simple you go for Hakaras HaTov. I'll give you an example. You have Hakaras HaTov to a person, and you invite him to your house, and he has certain heretical positions. And you could deal with him, and you have children. He has nowhere to go. But if he comes to your table, you can expose to your children to this person who has heretical views. Because Hakaras HaTov, do you invite him to your home? I wish I could be reciprocate. I can't. Because we have damage control. You have to take that into account. Yeah, Yisro, there's a question of damage control. If Hashem does not associate his name with a person till he dies, because you never know what he may turn the last moment, so Yisro has this background. Moshe Rabbeinu representing Klal Yisrael, maybe also it's too much of a chance. Hashem says you have nothing to worry about. Do it. That's the way I'm explaining it. The other way, let's go with the Sefarno. The Gemara tells us, based on the pasuk, Melech shemachol kvodo ein kvodo mochel. A king is not permitted to waive his honor. Tamachochem shemachol kvodo mochel. Nasi, a prince, kvodo mochel. But a melech is not permitted. Moshe Rabbeinu's status now was melech. The Gemara says he was a melech. So if he's a melech, for Hakaras HaTov, he's not permitted. He's not permitted to waive his honor. That's something, and this is a public setting. Right? Publicly, he's going out because it says all Klal Yisrael followed him. That means he himself, so you have to say, like the Gemara says at the end of Makos, that it says that Yoshafot, when he'd see a Talmud Chacham, he would go down from the throne and he would embrace him and he would kiss him and he would say, Rebbe, Rebbe, Mori, Mori. Because that was within the context of a mitzvah. That was a mitzvah. So you have to say over here also that since Moshe Rabbeinu, his whole level of survival was only due to Yisro, Therefore, in this context, Hakorsto was permitted. It wasn't on a personal level. His whole essence was because of this. It was an obligation. Since it was an obligation, therefore it's not in contradiction to Melech Shemochel Kvodo Kvodo Mochel. Ish L'Rei L'Sholom. Each asked one another how they were faring. Vayavo Olo, and they went into the tent. Vayisapim Moshe L'Chosno is Kol Asher Oso Hashem L'Paro L'Mitzrayim. Moshe is telling over to Yisro all that Hashem had done to Paro and to Egypt. Al Odos Yisrael. And why did he do that to Paro Mitzrayim? Because of what they had done to Yisrael. The miracles, whatever took place, it's all Al Odos Yisrael. And all the mishaps which occurred on the way, Vitzelim Hashem. Hashem saved them. How we were pursued by the Egyptians, how we went into the sea, and everything else. He shared everything with him. Now, why? What was it so important that he should share all this with Yisro? What's the reason? He shared everything. So Rashi cites the Medrash. To draw him, to influence his heart, to bring him close to the Torah. That's why he's sharing it. Eskolatlo, Shalayam, Shalamolek. That's what he shared with him.
I thought he was there already, Rabbi. I thought he was already there.
Good question. We said earlier, just to bring out your question, it says, why is it called Yisro? He had many names. Because the Torah is telling us his praiseworthiness, that he gave up all his glory to go into the desert to receive the Torah. So that's Moshe didn't speak to him, right? He's going in the desert to what? To accept the Torah. He gave everything up. But yet Moshe feels it's not a done deal till it's a done deal. You know? I'm there, all of a sudden the person starts vacillating. The Yetzer Hara doesn't want him to go. Moshe Rabbeinu wants to clinch it. How do you clinch it? By explaining to him and having a full grasp of to what degree what Hashem did on our behalf. This will be actually what we call the Makkah B'Patish. This will be the clincher. But it's again, why? What's the value? Limshoch libo l'Torah. To draw him that he should be fully committed to Torah. We find later, after Kabbalah Satorah, Yisro says to Moshe Rabbeinu, I'm going back to my family. So Moshe Rabbeinu explained to him, but you realize your value, you're like our eyes, because he had advised them regarding the judicial system, so many things. What was Moshe's concern? So Rashi over there, we didn't get there yet, says, because people will say, why did Yisro leave? Because the only reason why he came and gave everything up, because he thought he'd receive a portion in the land. But when he realized that the only people who receive a portion of land, if you're an original Jew, and since he's a convert, so he's given it all up. He had an ulterior motive. So Moshe Rabbeinu was concerned about that. People, it won't be understood properly. But actually went back to convert his family. But again, if he would come out and he would have second thoughts, what are people going to say? The Torah doesn't have that ultimate value. Yisro is one of the greatest statesmen in the world. He gave it all up for the Torah. What does that say? It's the ultimate Kiddush Hashem. If he should leave now, if he should have second thoughts and leave, what would that say? It's not worth it. It's not worth it. To give up what I thought, it's not what I thought it was. Therefore, Moshe Rabbeinu wants to bring it to that ultimate level of Kiddush Hashem. Therefore, sharing with him everything that happened, L'karva Torah. Because this is going to be ultimately the clincher that he'll be able to bring about that Kiddush Hashem, that he should not have a change of heart and go back. Torah. Because if he should back out, it reflects negatively on what the Torah is all about. So what he shared everything what happened, as he says, what happened at the Yam Suf, what happened with Amalek, but the conclusion is Vayetzilim Hashem. If everything is said and done, Hashem saved us. What does that say? Why did Hashem save us? Right? This is all pre-Sinai. Why did Hashem turn the world upside down? The 10 plagues, the Kriyas Yamsuf, Amalek. Why did Hashem Vayatzilem? I mean, it wasn't so simple. Moshe Ben is pointing out the point, the point, and he saved us. Why did he save us? You know why he saved us? Because ultimately, there's an objective. You know what the objective is? The objective is Kabbalah Torah. That only puts Torah on that pedestal that's worthwhile for God to turn the world upside down endless times and reveal himself at such a level for the sake of Torah. So this only magnifies whatever chavivus, love, Yisro had for Torah. He banded his glory to go into death for Torah. Moshe Rabbeinu sharing all with him. It's not only telling the miracles, but ultimately vayatzilim. After everything's said and done, it was to save us. Why to save us? The answer is because what you're coming for, that's the ultimate. So this will actually solidify and secure Yisro's mindset. He should accept the Torah, embrace the Torah for that reason. Said earlier that V'yishalu ish esrei shalom. So Rashi had a question, which is Chazal, who's Ish? So Ish, who bowed? Moshe bowed. Because we find Moshe is called Ish, and where is called Ish? We quote the Pasuk, Moshe, Ish Moshe, Onav Mikol Adam. In what context is Moshe called Ish? He's the most humble person who ever walked the face of the earth. That's where he's called Ish. So just as over there, Ish is Moshe, here when it says he bowed and he kissed him, this was Ish. That's Moshe. But it's interesting. The source, so what is Ish? What is the ultimate Ish? Ish is an indication of what? Of status. Moshe Rabbeinu was the ultimate in status because he was Ish Onav Mikol Adam, because he was the most humble person. Because he negated himself to that level, therefore he was the epitome of Ish. That's what the Ish is about. And why did he bow? Because he was Ish. Because he had that recognition of the value of Yisro. And only because he was at that level did he have that level of ability to internalize it to that degree. Because he's Ish Moshe Onav Mikol Adam. For that reason. And any Swami he writes, he wrote many Swami, the Chofetz Chaim. And he asks phenomenal questions, contradictions in Tilim, in Mishlei, very, very serious, almost questions you can't answer. And he answers them seamlessly. Once he gives you an understanding, the question is not even the question anymore. You see, Chofetz Chaim is a genius. And because he had a genius mind, therefore he's able to reconcile the way he reconciled it. Seamless answer. So I always say no. Because of the Chofetz Chaim's understanding of the reality of who Hashem is. The question is not a question. Other people have very serious questions. So another person who understands says, I'm going to explain it to you. Once he explains it, the question falls away. It's not an answer. It's not a question. Chofetz Chaim was at a level, it's not a question. Because of his level of his knowledge and his humility and his being a chosid, being a tzaddik, whatever he was. That's the way he saw Hashem. If you see Hashem in that, through that lens, the question is not a question. Moshe Rabbeinu, the reason why he had a full appreciation, why he should bow to Yisro, is because he's Ish. When you're Ish, there's no hesitancy. The only time there's ever a question, it's only if you're compromising Hashem's glory. But there's nothing personal here. So because Moshe was Ish Moshe Onav, therefore he bowed, and therefore he kissed him, because he had a full appreciation for the value of Yisro.